Welcome back to the final Rebel's Edge of the week, folks, because tomorrow's Thursday and we're going to be traveling. And of course, we're closed on Friday. So Pete and I are going to break down the big winners and big losers today on the market, as well as a couple pretty interesting trades that are going on right now and that people are making some big buck on. We'll tell you about those right after this on today's Rebel's Edge. Bang! Bang.
All right. Here we go. Rebel's Edge, baby. Last one of the week, as you said, John. We do have work on Thursday, but that sort of gets in the way a little bit of what's going on because we have Friday, and for everybody that doesn't know that, expiration is really Thursday, the 2nd.
So expiration's tomorrow, folks.
Yeah.
And as Pete would also tell you, for people that are nervous about anything about the war, and we know people are from time to time, no matter what this administration or the Iranian regime, whoever it is during that 10-minute period before they're killed, because that's pretty much the way it's been going.
Yeah.
We'll see. But I imagine there'll be a little nervousness in the afternoon tomorrow, Pete, and I would bet that if we get down below 23 even today in the VIX, we might see a little pop into the weekend. But keep in mind, there's a lot of time decay over a 3-day weekend.
Yeah.
All right, let's dive in, Pete. Let's hit macro first up. And I'm going to say, of course, what's going on overseas is macro, but also if Louis Vuitton's parent company, LVMH, is seeing one of their worst starts to any year, as you see there, shares worst start on record for LVMH, down 28% from the 52-week high here, Pete. You can see during the great financial crisis of 08, 1990s, 2020 with COVID and so forth, it's worse. And this only had 1 month of war in it because obviously we just closed the books on that month. And this is a pretty ugly chart for LVMH and luxury goods, right?
Yeah, that is an ugly chart. That's about as ugly as it gets. John, I'm going to stick with what's right in front of us and continues to be obviously the story of every day, which is what's going on with Iran and the de-escalation chatter that's going on right now, which is maybe giving us this gift because yesterday the market was just ripping to the upside, right? The S&P, the Dow, the Nasdaq, all of them were flying to the upside. You know what? They're not doing quite so bad today either, John. The Nasdaq's up 1.5% today. The S&P up 1% today. The Dow up just under 1% today, over 400 points to the upside. So there is a pretty good positive sort of a feel going on right now. And that I think is pretty daggone good. And that's what's giving us this stability in the markets right now is people are starting to grasp the idea that, well, maybe there's light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. And I think that's what people are going off right now. And certainly we're going to touch the VIX in a second. And that's being reflected right in front of us as we speak.
Yeah, as risk in the markets come down, the VIX, of course, is one of the major temperature gauges of risk and fear in the market. Many people do call it the fear gauge. The more they're looking for protection, the more the VIX goes up. Well, they're not seeking that same protection today. As we said, though, they may seek a little bit of it tomorrow, but we don't know if it'll be with the VIX below 23. I mean, it just broke 24 just now, Pete.
Yeah.
But if it's below 23, does it pop, if you will, back to 24? Or does it just kind of sift lower, knowing that we don't really have a lot other than the war to worry about right here?
Yeah, well, and it's been cascading a little bit down, John, at a fairly decent pace because we were flirting with 30 and flirting over at 31 and kind of getting up into that range, which we've been talking about. But the haircut that we're getting today here is pretty interesting for sure. I mean, the fact that we now have, like you just said, got underneath 24, we were trading. I think the low so far of the day is 23.76. That can change as well. So we'll see. But certainly you're watching very, very rapidly how fast the VIX can move back down to the downside. We're getting some great move out of the S&P, great moves out of the Dow and the Nasdaq. So from that perspective, people are feeling at least enough comfortable, John, to start coming in and buying. And that's really the flip that we're seeing. And that's why we're also seeing the VIX itself start to pull back dramatically based upon the de-escalation of what we're seeing.
Yeah. And let's take a look at something that feeds right into that, Pete, which might be the poly market. What will WTI crude oil hit in April 2026? So in other words, this month, because it's the 1st of April today. Well, some people are betting on 120. That's a minority, 40%. That's still, a fair amount of folks. But over 110, 67% think that it might be over 110 in April of 2026, Pete. And I'm going to say at this point, it would take a tanker getting hit for that, or a U.S. Military ship to be hit. And hopefully neither of those two things happen.
Right. Yeah, it is interesting to see how, I don't know if you want to say bullish they are about WTI going higher or whatever. I mean, it certainly is interesting to see that. I wouldn't have thought that that's where we would be standing, quite frankly. I would have thought that the fact that it might be somewhere closer to, if it were 100, maybe, but the 110, that's quite a jump. We're talking about WTI here as well. I mean, these are the levels that we haven't seen for a while. And 120, I don't know, John. I think that I would fight against some of those going up to 110, 120. I feel like there's something maybe finally happening where this is going to get resolved. And like we keep using the word de-escalate, well, because that is the proper word to see what we're seeing right now. And if that sticks and if that becomes a strength for the markets, I would think that WTI would pull back even from where it is right now, which is under 100.
Well, let's dive right in, Pete, to Unit. The Unity Group, it's up big today. And why is that? Well, because according to published reports, T-Mobile, TMUS, as well as TPG are among parties that are looking at them for potentially buying assets from Unity, basically their fiber business that's for homes and businesses. And obviously, T-Mobile wants to get into your home. TPG recognizes that people want faster internet, and fiber is one of the ways they do that, Pete. So we did have some unusual activity in this one just yesterday.
Wow.
Yesterday. I mean, take a look at this. Nobody knew anything, right? I mean, there's not a chance anybody knew anything. But when you look and say, well, there it is, 3/31/2026, with the stock at $9.26. It is a full dollar higher than that right now. The one you see on your screen, 10.15, the high of the day, I think, might even be 10.50, Pete.
It's 11.
But they were buying the April 9 calls for 19 cents. That's $19 a piece. If you bought 10 of them, folks, that's $190. Well, you just turned that into 6 times your money. Not 4 times, not 5 times, 6 times as the stock moves higher. So this is, I don't know, do you think somebody left something in a fax machine or a printer, Pete, and somebody saw it?
Something like that must have happened, John. I mean, this is a new high, and I'm looking at it right now. At least my computer's showing me that it's up above 11, and that happened today. That's a 52-week high, 11.03 to be precise. But
wow.
Nonetheless, this thing has made a pretty spectacular move, and it's incredible to see what's going on here. And it makes a lot of sense, right? The buying of the assets of Unity for both T-Mobile and TPG partnering up together to get this entire company. I mean, so a lot of reasons why this is an interesting one, but I think the most interesting part about this has to be the UOA, the unusual option activity, because somebody sniffed this son of a gun out and their timing was absolutely pristine. So That's why we do what we do. It's why we search around to try to find things like this somewhere within the markets, just to get a little flavor for where things are and what people's expectations are. And wow, the expectations seem to be pretty accurate on this one, John.
Yeah, I'd say very accurate, Pete. All right, let's hit Encino. Not with an E like the suburb of Los Angeles, Encino, I think, Pete, but N-C-N-O. This one is basically software for banks. And how are they doing? Well, they were up as much as 20% today, Pete. Cloud banking solutions is what it says that they do. I haven't followed this one a lot, so I'm not going to kid you, but I will say the subscription revenue continues to dominate what they do as far as revenue. And it was 88% of their total revenue. So Encino doing a lot of things right, apparently. And that's why, even though it's eased back, it's up 11% now. It was up very strong to start the day.
Yeah, it had a huge move to the upside, just like you were saying, John. And what have we said about earnings? We've been talking about this for a long time. The earnings season has been incredible for multiple quarters. And this is just another great example of that. I mean, these guys were able to put up the numbers that they did, and the numbers are amazing. Like you were just talking about. One of the things that I'd even say, John, is they talked about $100 million share repurchase acceleration coming in there. That's pretty bullish. They had strong Q4 beat. That's pretty bullish. They had robust, as you talked about, growth, the margins expanding, retention improving. There wasn't anything that these guys touched that didn't look like something very, very good. So very impressive to see what Encino is doing. It was up 20%. Maybe that was a little bit of profit taking once it got up to those levels, John. And that might be why it's pulled back, because I don't think the expectation was that it would be quite this good. And I think for that reason, people decided, you know what? I'm going to do the discipline thing. I bought it here. It's now trading here. I'm going to sell some of that out. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing right now.
And that's smart.
Yeah.
Because never look back, folks, and say, oh, I wish I hadn't have sold that. You can wish about it, but move on to the next trade. Yep. If you took a profit, it's, something that's in your bank account right now, or your brokerage account in this case. Yep. But I think having that discipline, or losing that discipline, Pete, is what you and I try to impart to investors and traders every single day. Yep. You must cut your losses, and you must take profits. And so if this one was up 20 and you decided as it started to pull back, I'm going to sell it here up 15%, you're still happier than where it is right now. It's up 11%. It's a great trade. Take some profits.
Yep.
All right. How about Nike, Pete?
Yeah.
I bet Mr. Parker's getting a little nervous. And I bet Mr. Knight is probably on the phone with him frequently. In case you don't know, folks, the CEO over at Nike is a guy named Mark Parker. And I'm not saying he's a bad guy. He's probably a great guy to be running the company, but the company is at a 52-week low, Pete.
Ouch.
They're down 14%, weaker than expected guidance here. And again, you can't just deliver a beat on either revenue or bottom line profit. You have to have guidance that's at least within a penny or two of what the street was looking for. And if you don't, and if instead you're missing by as much as 4% what the street was looking for, they are going to hit the exits with both hands. And that's why the stock's at a new 52-week low right now, Pete.
Yeah, this one and Starbucks sort of mirror each other in certain ways, John, and one of which is they're putting a lot down that things are going to go well in China. Well, let me tell you something. They're not going all that well in China. As a matter of fact, 20% down on sales in China for Nike in this particular case. So that's not good. You were talking about some of the other things, that when you have that guidance and it's weaker than expected, it's just one of those things that's going to happen, and people start selling. Well, down 14%, like you just said, it's at a 52-week low. They've got a lot of different things going on. It doesn't help the fact that, we've got all this disruptions coming from the Middle East as well. That's not helping them at all. But, their guidance, they had a Q3 beat, but their sales was not something that looked very good. As a matter of fact, they're projecting, like you just said, down by about 2 to 4%. So it's understandable. I think it's actually probably reasonable to think why Nike's there. And let's not forget, the competition for Nike has been growing and growing and going after them more and more all the time. And they haven't had really the answer for that, John. And so whether it's a Lululemon or whoever you want to throw out there as some form of competition to them, it's just become a much more different environment for Nike than it used to be. They're no longer king, and I think this shows it. The selling that we're seeing today down to the, like you just said, 52-week lows, that is not something that they were looking forward to at all. And unfortunately, they have to deliver what they've got to deliver. They're struggling right now in a big way.
Well, it's, again, not us trying to put pressure on Mr. Parker. It's just the shareholders are going to be putting pressure on Mr. Parker and the whole team over at Nike because, it was Under Armour a few years ago, Pete. And now, like you said, it's on running and so forth. It's Hoka, it's Reebok and so forth. It's a lot of places that are pressuring them. Adidas. Yeah, you're right. All right. How about Restoration Hardware is what they used to call this one, Pete. Now they just call it some 4-letter words today because, wow, look at this. RH, again, they call it RH instead of Restoration Hardware, but the shares plunging today after the luxury home furnishing retailer basically put out results with a weak outlook. And again, nobody is going to give you credit for anything good if you offer them a weak outlook rather. And that's exactly what RH did, Pete. Would you even start nibbling on this one? I mean, the 52-week high is $260 or something like that. It's trading at 108 right now, which happens to be basically a new 52-week low today, just like Nike.
Yeah, and John, I think from the economy standpoint, at least right now, I think you'd probably want to pause before buying. So I think it's a very legitimate question. Hey, it's 240 now, it's 108. What are you going to do? I think that's a very legitimate question. I would still sit on my hands and pause, and I would want to see something that would actually tell me that there's a reason why RH is going to actually get lifted up off of where it is right now. I mean, when you look at the numbers, John, the revenue was okay. Year over year, it was up about 3%. Net income doubled. But, you start looking at the guidance that they're throwing out there, like we talk about all the time, and that's not so great. And that's a little bit nerve-wracking, I think. Will it be that bad? Maybe. Maybe things actually improve. But I think I'd rather be looking at this one as it starts to make that turn to start moving to the upside, which it's not showing that yet. And it's been coming down. I mean, that chart, I think, spoke, a lot about what's going on with the company, because it was damn near upper left to the bottom right, which is the opposite of what we'd want to be looking at right now. But, the guidance, they missed on the revenue, they missed on the margins. That's not what you want to hear about a company that, is in the midst of being in a struggling spot. And that's exactly where they are. So I'd sit on my hands a little bit for a while. They've got it's a show me. You know what? And if I don't get the bottom, I'm okay with it. If a quarter from now things have really changed and things are starting to move to the upside and they get something that sounds a hell of a lot better next quarter, I don't mind paying $1.30 for it if that's the case. But sitting at 108 right now, I think that's where they deserve to be based upon what they've put out there and what they've put out there for a forecast as well.
If they get some tariff relief, Pete, this would be one that would hop. Yeah. You will get this one. You'll be chasing it at 160. Trust me. Yeah. If they get that, they may not. The president might go harder at China. So just be aware of that. There's, two edges to this sword. One, they could do better because Trump could lighten up on tariffs, or they could do worse because China says something and bothers the president, and the president goes slap with another tariff. And all of a sudden, RH is back to those 4-letter words, Pete.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. Let's take a look at a little a sports video, Pete, that I shared with you guys earlier. I think you'll like it. This is perhaps one of the best, and you talked about him, Pete, just a day ago, I think, or 2 days ago. But this kid, one of the best safeties, the kid out of Iowa last year, or 2 years ago, rather, unbelievable, phenom, unbelievable speed, can return kicks, can do it all, cover players. Watch this guy, because this guy is playing on Sundays for as long as he stays healthy.
Yep.
That's my brother Dylan. He ran a 4.35 at the combine and is a projected first-round draft pick. And I've got a little inside knowledge, because what separates Dylan isn't the elite athleticism, the playmaking ability, or the football IQ, which he's all got. It's 3 things that almost never get talked about. 1 is focus. Dylan cares about so few things outside of football, it's honestly impressive. He's cut out every vice and every distraction, so the only thing left is ball, which leads to number 2, process. First one in, last one out. Dylan's been a pro with his preparation for a long time, so do not try to compete with him.
He's a dynamic player on film, infatuated with football, infatuated with the extra work. Probably not a day that goes by that Dylan's not in the weight room getting bonus work, doing extra rehab, getting extra film. I know he's not satisfied.
That's what's extremely clear to us now with Dylan. This guy is an absolute pro with preparation. So he's an individual that's in here, early, leaving late. He's wanting to do bonus meetings.
Professionalism is a perfect way to put it. This morning I was in the treatment room at 5:50, and he was already in the tubs, shirt off, warming up. I'm like, dude, did you go practice already?
But where does that come from? That would be number 3, standard. Brennan, our middle brother, and I walked on at Purdue, and against all odds, we became team captains, and I even got a shot at the league. Dylan grew up with that as normal. Elite work ethic was his baseline. And what younger brother doesn't want to outdo their older brother? He's now spent a decade raising that standard. And what you saw at the combine is the compound effect of all of it. And it's what we've seen for years. So here's how you can apply it. First, cut out everything standing between you and the outcome you want. Then dial in your daily process. That's what the all-in playbook is. Finally, stop accepting subpar execution. The results will follow the standard that you set for yourself. So if you're a high performer making at least 6 figures and you want to build an elite physique with that same mentality, DM me all in and let's talk.
All in.
That kid's special, man. John, he is the best safety in the draft. Size, he's got size. Speed, at his size, to be able to run like that is unbelievable. And you know what? A lot of the time I would say too many guys get too wound up about the combine. I think in this guy's case, he's a football player who also can run. A lot of these guys are guys who can run. They really aren't all that good in football, but they athletically look great, right? You go, hey, that guy. This kid actually executes it on the football field, which is why he is a legit top 15, maybe 10, depending on who needs whatever they need. I think the Vikings at 18, if he happened to be there, that would absolutely be a great pick for them, because they need a safety. The safety that they've had for many, many years finally decided to retire. So they need somebody to get into that spot. And they also need somebody who kind of can almost play a linebacker position. So yeah, this guy, I would say, is about as special as it gets, and he is going to be a hell of a player. And by the way, they were right about the younger brother thing. The younger brother, But I will say this. You know what? The younger brother, if he's aggressive and smart, watches the older brothers and tries to compete with them, even though there's no competition. John is 6 years older than me. He could beat the hell out of me in everything I did, until I got to a certain age where I could start.
He got big.
Where I started catching up to you and Dave and Paul and all the rest of it. So, and the younger guy has everybody else to look up to. So there is something to be said for that. But that guy, I'll tell you what, Oregon's got a couple of them. I'll give you this one as the other example, though. This tight end who's so athletic and so unbelievable. Why didn't he have more catches, though, John? That's what bothers me a little bit. Here's a guy who's big, strong, and clearly one of the fastest tight ends ever. But I look at his numbers and I'm like, they're okay. There's a lot of tight ends who have numbers that are higher than that. And that's, one of those things where Are you falling in love with him because at the combine he could run? But, on the field, is he making the plays that, I don't know. That one I think is a little bit less of a slam dunk. This guy's a slam dunk, I think.
Pete, Colston Loveland, the tight end the Bears took,
yep.
When I was one of the people, my hand up, I was one of the people that said, oh, they screwed up. They should have taken the other guy, Warren, that went to the Colts.
Yeah.
If you see Loveland now, Pete, he's put on probably 20 pounds of muscle.
Right.
This kid, and he played great last year.
Yeah.
I think this kid's going to have a breakout year like no other sophomore tight end has had in a long time.
Yeah.
Great player.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, I give credit to the Bears for what they've done in the last year. I mean, they've got somebody who really understands football coaching it. You've got somebody, in the backside, the general manager, as well as other positions with the Bears, where they did a great job of deciphering who is the best players that fit that team. Offensive line, tight end, obviously, help out your quarterback. Well, in 1 year, they helped the quarterback enough that he's probably a pretty big threat to just about everybody. I mean, they did a lot of things right, and I think a lot of the back office deserves a lot of the credit, Chicago. All right, John, how about this? The NFLPA, they're in their meetings, right? And they're trying to decide, what do we need to do about this? What do we need to do about that? I found it really interesting because a lot of them, many of them, want to have an 18-game season. Now, used to be 12, 14, 16, 17. Now they want to go to 18, right? And then, it's one more reason that they're kind of stupid and greedy. And I say that because of this. Injuries certainly go up higher. The more games you're playing that are real games, and I'll get into how many games you're going to have to play then. But when you've got 18 real games, even if you just are wearing them down, you're wearing them down, right? I mean, they don't have to have gotten hurt. That's one more game, full speed, hits, everything that goes with it, head, whatever. It's going to be a factor. And so I think the greed of trying to get that next check because you've got 18 games, where does it end, right? I mean, at what point is there too many games? And I'm thinking 17 even right now seems like a lot. I'd love to see some of the stats about injuries over, a period of time since they've expanded that whole thing and whatever. Yeah. But one thing that I did the numbers on, John, if you do a guy who plays in the preseason, who also plays in the regular season, who also goes to the playoffs and then the Super Bowl, they will have played 24 games. Now, that's too many. These guys, you've got this commodity that's the players, and they're getting the crap kicked out of them for 24 games. I just think it's a stupid maneuver, and I'm hopeful it won't happen because they will expand 18 at some point, and I don't know when that happens. But it's going to happen, and it's all because the owners that are the most greedy are the ones that are going to push this thing, and eventually they'll get it. What do you think about this whole thing? Because I don't like it at all.
No, I think it's too much. They're too greedy, and all you got to do is look at something like George Kittle, Pete, and say, okay, when did he get hurt? Did he snap? And I realized that, for instance, Aaron Rodgers did his Achilles on the fifth play of the first game of the year. But George Kittle's not his age. George Kittle's in his prime. Aaron Rodgers was, in his 40s when that happened. So I think, Pete, you're going to see, and I'll try to do maybe I'll have Grok do a search for me and see how many injuries, not hitting injuries, but injuries where a guy, snaps a tendon or whatever, like Kittle did. Whether it's, I bet from game 15, 16, 17, you're going to see an awful lot more injuries right there. And I realize you've taken the beating to get there, but all of a sudden you just run right out of your ankle. Are you kidding me? When you're in that kind of shape that these guys are in, I think a lot of it is the body just can only take so much.
Yeah. And speaking of that brings us into our second topic, which is also in the NFL, but top free agents that are still here. And I just did a top 6, John, just because, there's too many names there. But people don't realize free agency is free agency. I mean, it's there. And so it's a matter of who's going to sign next, if there is somebody going to sign next. And you know what? Aaron Rodgers is still free. I got him as a top 6. It's why I wanted to have 6. I have top 6. You got guys like Jennings, the receiver at the Niners. You've got Decker, the offensive lineman at the Lions. You've got Diggs, another a safety or corner. 32
but
years
he's got
old.
problems.
And he's got some issues. There ain't no doubt about that. Joey Bosa up at Buffalo, he's 31 years old. Most of these guys are fairly old. The oldest being Rodgers, obviously, 42 years old or whatever he is. But he threw for 24 touchdowns. He only had 7 interceptions and 65% completion. I would be shocked if he didn't play one more year, John. And I keep thinking he's going to sign up at Pittsburgh. I can't figure out why he hasn't already. So who knows? I mean, Aaron's a guy who beats to his own drum, right? I mean, that's who he is. But the only free agent that I liked in these, because all these guys in my mind are too old. They're all in their 30s. And that's when things start to happen very early. If you pay a guy a lot of money and 2 games in, he gets hurt, that's going to be a problem. So I still like the kid from Minnesota, Alea, who was an offensive guard for Baltimore, John, at 6'9" and 370 pounds at 26 years old. I'll put that guy at guard all day long on any team in the NFL, and he will make that offensive line better. And I can't figure out why they haven't signed him, because he's been a starter. He's been a player. He's been a hell of a football player for them. Not a good tackle. He's too big to play offensive tackle. Guys can run past him. But as a guard, let me tell you something. That D-line or that linebacker, more importantly, that's across from him, he blocks the world when those guys, when a running back is running behind him, and he had the best in the business, but when you've got a running back running behind that guy and you're a linebacker, you almost have no chance. I don't care who the linebacker is. They have almost no chance. So I that's the one guy who stands out for me. Do you think Rodgers, probably most importantly, is Rodgers going to sign with Pittsburgh, or is he done?
Like you said, Aaron's going to do what Aaron's going to do. I think in fairness to the Steelers, he should make that decision now.
Yep.
Before the draft. We're 3 weeks, 4 weeks out from the draft, Pete?
Yep.
They need to know. Now, do they need a quarterback anyway? The answer is yes.
Mm-hmm.
So if a quarterback is there, should they take him, whoever it is, so he could develop for a year or more? The answer again is yes. Mm-hmm. But with trades that they could make and all the rest, you're kind of holding them out in a bad way if you don't make your decision. You either want to play there or you don't. Mm-hmm. Nobody's going to pay him more money. So it's not that question. The question is that team as good as they're going to be, and could he take them deeper into the playoffs? And if he thinks the answer is yes, then sign on the dotted line, Aaron.
Yep. He needs to make that decision. And it would be the smart and fair thing to do with the team as well, just so that the new head coach, his former head coach at Green Bay, so that he can start moving along with it, right? One way or the other. I totally agree with you. Yeah.
All right. Well, folks, we appreciate all of you joining us. As we said, top of the show, we are not here tomorrow. We'll be on trading and so forth, but we will be getting ready for both Passover and Easter, which means, of course, that Good Friday, we're closed. The market's closed. So it's really going to be like a half day tomorrow, with perhaps a little drifting up of the vol into the end of the day because of a 3-day weekend. Yep. Just like every weekend that we've said, time and time again, every single Friday, we've seen vol go up on Friday. Mm-hmm. Market doesn't have to go down, but vol will go up tomorrow at some point. I don't know if it's from 22 or if it's moving up from 24, where, roughly where we are now. But I think it will be higher at the end of the day tomorrow, Pete, than where we closed today.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. Have a great, safe holiday, and we'll see you again on Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. See you then.